Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda, Cities ABC, Open Business Council YouTube podcast series. We are here again for a fabulous new interview with someone I'm actually quite excited today to portray, but as well to keep portraying people that are changing the way we live in, and as well thinking about new innovative ways and creative ways of changing and making substantial change for our society, our cities, and the way we deal with our creativity, with our challenges as society, but as well as people, as citizens. So in our series, we've been interviewing right now close to 170 people and reaching close to 8 million views just on YouTube alone. And one of the things that has been always the tone is the innovators and the people changing the world, the change makers, let's put it that way. So one of my passions that I didn't spoke much is music. Actually, I started my first career when I was 11, writing music and actually singing and actually portraying songs. So today I'm very excited to have here with us with Shawn Granberry. So Shawn Granberry has a fantastic CV that touches a lot of different areas and is well known as the CEO of HipHopTV, USA-based 24-hour live streaming online platform. And the platform features a lot of different programming from custom playlists, licensed content, and music videos. And Shawn is a veteran of the industry of entertainment, but he has a quite out-of-the-box experience that touches from promoting music and the entertainment industry in the West Coast of the US, but as well working with the likes of different areas of entertainment, from music, film, music, and as well sports. So from some of the areas that I will highlight from his CV, and of course we'll put this on the bio that goes close to the YouTube and the different places where people are listening to us. After college, Mr. Granberry, Shawn was a close confidant to Shakir Stewart, and also continued to produce events like Def Jam's How to Find a Megastar, and worked very close with famed movie producer Robert Watts at Transformer Entertainment. And while working with Stewart and Watts, Shawn began researching the new broadcast model now known as over-the-top broadcasting, which changed part the way we see broadcasting and media entertainment. And after returning to the UC Berkeley, where he studied, to fully study this model, Shawn founded Watch Now Networks, that is the company behind the HipHopTV and a lot of other different things that he's doing. Shawn met his passion while still in high school, and back then he worked in a A&R department with his uncle, Chew Tough Enough Productions, where his mother was the CEO, so family business that goes and grows. And Chew Tough Enough Productions work with such artists and companies as Tony and Vogue, Madonna, Club Nouveau, Confunction, Timex Social Club, Regine Bell, Alexander O'Neill, Bet Networks, ABC and Fox Networks, just to mention a few. In high school, Shawn also teamed up with Shakir Stewart to produce some of the biggest parties in Oakland and California, and as well has been involved in the academy with Berkeley University, where he attended, but as well he has still a relationship. And of course, he has a huge relationship with the nightclubs and popular clubs in the area of San Francisco and Bay Area. And of course, in terms of his passion and the work he's been doing, it has a huge impact as well in terms of social impact and community work that comprehends, and as well work with inner city youth that he founded, the Scholar Athlete Union and Bears Youth Basketball, with help from childhood friend Jason Kidd, and works very close with Stanford and UCA Berkeley faculty to help young people achieve a college education and survive the dangers of the streets.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to talk about music, hip hop, entertainment, and a lot of these things, Shawn. So it's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Dinis. Appreciate it.
So Shawn, I would like to start, I think, by the last part of your CV. So this work that you've been doing with the dangers of the streets.
Yes.
So I think this is kind of a big part. Of course, this interview will talk about a lot of things. I know that it's going to be a big interview. But one of the things that I'm particularly interesting is that you've been crossovering entertainment, music, and education and sports, and as well community work, which is a very big thing.
Right.
And this is as well on the basis of hip hop. So can you tell us about this work from your beginning on the streets, and as well on the music industry, to as well the work you'll be doing in the end, and then we go through the middle afterwards.
Got it. So the community work started with my good friend Jason Kidd and I really reflecting on our lives and realizing that we have been very blessed in life. We both come from very loving families, um, a loving spiritual life. We attended a wonderful school and wonderful church, and had our parents there, and just had just a great childhood. Went on family vacations. Just were blessed to have a no worry childhood. So Jason went on to be, of course, a Hall of Famer and an NBA superstar, and now NBA coach of the Dallas Mavericks. I went on to have continue on the family business and work in entertainment, everything I've wanted to do. So we felt it was our responsibility to give back to young people that were less fortunate. Everyone isn't born into a family, a successful family, and everyone isn't doesn't have wasn't able to attend wonderful schools and all those things. So we feel it's our responsibility to give back, and that's kind of where it started at. Is that we had a responsibility to give back to people that wasn't blessed as well as we were blessed in life. That's the foundation of our community work. So we kind of combine what we do. So Jason's NBA. So of course it includes a lot of basketball stuff. I'm hip hop and entertainment. So everything we do kind of takes the strengths of what we do and apply it to our community work.
Well, that's really wonderful. So let's go back to your career, because it's a fantastic career, and I think, like you said, from a great family,
Right.
and your mother was CEO as well of a music label, so you grew up as well with family and so forth. But can you tell us about this? Because of course it's quite innovative, because when you talk about hip hop, normally it's always people with a lot of issues and drugs and rock and roll and a lot of sometimes kind of edgy stuff. But in your case, it's Stanford, Berkeley, and it's kind of we would say wow. So, but I think it's interesting for people listening, especially young hip hop wannabes, to see that you can actually have the two things and actually do things in the right way as well. So I would like to hear that story.
So as a child, my uncle, who's a music producer and songwriter, while he was in college, he wrote a hit song. And the song was, he worked on a song called Rumors by a 80s group called Timex Social Club. That went on to be a huge national hit in the United States. Well, global. It was a global hit. And so he went from being a college student to a music producer overnight. And my mother stepped in because he was young to kind of set up the business side of things, because he had sold millions of records very quickly. So like his first bat out, he sold millions of records. So my mother stepped in to kind of put the business part of it together, and that created Too Tough Enough production. So from there, my uncle went on to make lots of hits, write lots of songs. I don't know, he's probably sold in the excess of 50 million records, or who knows how many he sold. But Club Nouveau, these are all big 80s groups. Club Nouveau, Timex Social Club, In Vogue was one of his biggest. Tony. He produced for all the TV networks, Madonna, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. So my mother ran that business. My mother gave me a job in high school to work in the A&R department. So my uncle would be looking for artists around the world. So the demo tapes would come into the office. I would rate the demo tapes, and then the ones deemed worthy for my uncle to listen to. His business partner, Denzel Foster, and him would listen to the demo tapes, and sometimes they would work with the group, sometimes they wouldn't. But we got a lot of groups that came in there. Like I actually had MC Hammer's demo tape before anybody ever know who MC Hammer was. it was my office that took in his demo tape. And a lot of stories like that. E40, one of the big artists in the Bay Area. He was with his family group, E40 and the Click. I had their demo tape before anybody ever knew who they were. So that was my job in high school. So that was very, very fun, as you can imagine.
Wow. No, that's really impressive. But what I love is as well how you work with family and how your mother step in. It's really amazing as well, because it's kind of shows a different, first of all, family side to everything related with the music industry. So can you tell us about your mother? Because I think it's really beautiful, that story. If you wouldn't mind, of course.
Right. My mother's a phenomenal woman. So not only did she run my uncle's production company as CEO for many years, she worked very close with a real power broker in the music industry, Sylvia Rome. After my mother's stint with the production company, we were still in school. So I have a younger sister. We were still in school. So my mother was asked to move to LA or New York to work for one of the major labels. Because we were small, and my father owned a construction company. My mother chose not to pursue the music career in New York or LA because she didn't want to uproot her family. So she went into education and ended up being a college professor. So she's Dr. Tony McElroy. She ended up reinventing herself as an educator and teacher, principal, and then professor. So she went on into education. So yeah, my mother's what you call a superwoman.
Wow, that's a wonderful story. No, it's really special as someone that tries to have a good family, at least to be a good example. And of course, I like the music has a lot of excesses and the culture of entertainment, but you can actually still have fantastic stories like yours, very positive as well, which is in itself a beacon of light as well. So let's look at, because let's say when your mother and your uncle were having all this success was more or less at the same time that hip hop was kind of growing as it is now.
It was,
so can you tell us from that inception, because you were part of that? So I'm seeing from the 70s, and there's a lot of theories saying that history starts with the Jamaica DJ Cool Herc that starts spinning. So a bit of the history of hip hop from your side as well, because you're an expert on that worldwide.
Well, I got a great experience because my uncle would be on tour in the early 80s. He was on tour. So all the time he'd go to New York, he would always bring back the mixtapes. So I got to hear all the latest hip hop as it was coming out very early on. And my uncle also worked with a lot of the artists. So he worked with a lot of early hip hop artists with his music production. So I was there in a lot of the beginning of the culture. As it came out to the West, my uncle spent a lot of time in LA. So we were a lot of close to the Ice-T's of the world that were coming out in LA. In San Francisco Bay Area, we had early artists like Too Short. Too Short basically lived around the corner from me. So I saw him selling his tapes on the corner and build up to a global artist from the very, very beginning. But with the history in New York, Cool Herc, South Bronx, I visit there a lot, in fact. To see the culture grow the way it has grown and really see it from the front line, it's just truly amazing to see, because I go way back with a lot of the guys from when I was very young. So because I was around my uncle. So I actually saw these guys at their prime as they were creating the culture, because when you're in the music industry, you attend a lot of music conventions, and this was very, very big in the 80s. Music conventions where they launched the new artists. So I was there with Big Daddy Kane and LL Cool J. This is before everybody really knew who they were. This is when the record company was just starting to promote them. So they were just walking around the hotel just like everybody else. So everybody from Two Live Crew, LL Cool J, like say Big Daddy Kane, Busta Rhymes. This was all before anybody ever knew who they were. So It was incredible to be on the front lines, watching it all develop.
And so before we go to HipHopTV, so
Okay.
when you were in the inception, because this was the inception of hip hop, so being part of this was natural for you. But seeing all these changes, because hip hop is about the music, but it's about the culture, it's about all the society, the fashion, all the things around this. So how did that immersion, and of course that made you create HipHopTV, but how was that all the things work together, and some histories or some stuff that you want to share with us, that you saw all of that happen at the same time? Of course, you were so involved that probably for you was different from outsiders, but a bit of that context of the inception.
Well, it started with my close friendship with Shakir Stewart. Shakir and I grew up together in Oakland. We then went to high school together, St. Mary's High School in Berkeley, California. And in high school, we decided that looking at what my uncle was doing, one day, this is in 9th grade in high school, we wanted to build a global entertainment company. So we decided that we were in 9th grade. That's what we wanted to do. And we would support each other no matter what. So that was a pact we made. So my uncle friends were the top DJs in the area and the top power brokers in the area. So we started throwing parties because the top radio DJs would DJ at our parties because they were my uncle's friends. So we would have these huge parties, 2,000 kids at a party. We charged them $5 to get in. So we built a business in high school of throwing these big parties. But we would have the radio DJs DJing at the parties. We were like, how'd you get those top DJs to DJ at these high school parties? But they were my uncle's friends. So I knew them since I was very young. So they would do anything, to help me, or because the relationship they had with my uncle. They were family friends. So they were family friends. So that's how we started throwing these big parties. Then Shakir went off to Morehouse College, and he became a part of a group in Atlanta, Noontime Productions, that ended up signing Puffy's Hitmen. So all the bad boy hits by Puffy was done by mainly 7 producers that started in Atlanta on the Noontime Productions. So all Notorious B.I.G.'s hits, Mace, all those bad boy hits came out of these producers, and Shakir was a part of that scene. Then he went on to be L.A. Reid's right-hand man. L.A. Reid was leading Hitco Music Production, a music publishing company, as well as his record label. But then he went on to head Def Jam. So I was working with Shakir this whole time. So during this time, when he went on for Def Jam, he signed Rick Ross, signed Young Jeezy, signed Sierra, the R&B star, signed Beyonce to her first songwriting deal. All this was going on. We're working together through all this great things that are going on. But when he was at Def Jam, Jay-Z told Shakir, is like, man, you way too smart to be running Def Jam. You need to own your own company and do global things around the world. So that's when Shakir called me, and we met in Las Vegas, and we, on a napkin, came up with the concept of HipHopTV. It was really transitioning from regular music sales into video aspect of it. So we wanted to build a global home of hip hop culture and use the latest technology to monetize the culture at the highest level, making sure that the artists and creators of hip hop were compensated at the highest levels, because now technology was allowing this to happen. We fast forward to today and we see where we're at. We're in an incredible space to actually make that happen.
That's wonderful. So I want to touch, of course, I'm not an expert, but it's interesting because I'm preparing for the interview and I love hip hop, but of course, more from a lower perspective, not from an industry guy. So it's interesting looking at Google, because if you look at Google and you search for history of hip hop, what is interesting is that the first thing that appears is kind of, and I want to go through some of these questions with you, is we started hip hop, where the name hip hop came from, and then the three major movements of hip hop. And there's a lot of questions like this, like what did Grandmaster Flash contribute to hip hop? What skills do you need for hip hop? So there's a lot of search, and actually this is kind of, there's close to 300 million search results just for this. So that's a massive opportunity. This is just for history of hip hop, but if you go to hip hop, so I think when I came with this question is that there's 2 billion, actually almost 3 billion search results for hip hop. So definitely this is, it started, like you said, by, well, part of your family and friends and a lot of different ecosystem, but it's a massive industry worldwide that touches everyone. I think everyone from of course, New York, Atlanta, California, to now Africa, to China, to Asia, and so forth. So I would like to go through this, and how do you see this expanding worldwide, and especially when you create HipHopTV? How do you see this? Because it's really a massive industry right now that created a couple of very big global, well, a lot of big celebrities and stars, but as well it created a massive industry that is still in the inception. And it crosses over a lot of different things. So can you tell us a bit about this inception, but as well from an industry perspective?
I think there's a huge opportunity here. Hip hop is completely global. It's completely global. One thing I always talk about is that when you say the word hip hop, just the term hip hop, you know, hip hop it doesn't sway too much in terms of definition, no matter where you are. But when people hear hip hop in China, they pretty much know hip hop. Whether you're in Oakland, California, or London, or Sydney, Australia, or Laos, you know, or Malaysia, or you know, or deep into Kenya or South Africa, hip hop is hip hop. So it's not, the key is hip hop isn't lost in translation, you know. So that is very, very powerful when you have something that's a global movement, but the term describing it isn't lost in translation. So that's the huge opportunity we see with HipHopTV, is that we know just through geo-targeting, we could build massive amounts of traffic because in the United States, hip hop is where the validation sits. So because we're in the United States and we're hip hop, the world looks for validation from the United States when it comes to hip hop. You know what I mean? So the United States is always kind of looked up to as the creator of hip hop and hip hop culture. Excuse me. And because of that, we know we can build a lot of global traction around it, as well as work with hip hop creators around the world and kind of combine efforts to create the global movement even stronger. So for us, it's a huge opportunity in content creation, but you know, and just collaboration. You know, I work with Artisan in the United States and say, you need to figure out who's doing stuff around the world. You know, with music, you upload your track, you can mix it, and then you could, you know, remix a song together all day long. So I tell artists in the United States, you need to reach out to the artists in Africa. You need to reach out to the artists in Asia. With social media, it's very easy to send a DM message. So it's very easy to reach out, making hip hop even more global than it already is. So that's one of our goals.
So in terms of HipHopTV, I know that you guys have been building something really amazing, because it's much more than just an organization. It's a movement around the hip hop ecosystem and the culture. So tell us about what is HipHopTV for people that don't know so much, and what are your goals, where people can find, and so forth.
So HipHopTV, first of all, can be found at hiphoptv.com. So it's hiphoptv.com. We'll be launching our apps in the next 60 days. You'll see the relaunch of the HipHopTV app launch on iOS and Android. But what we did was build a video sharing platform that monetizes video with some of the best technology that we could find. So in essence, we not only produce content, we also help creators of content, so user-generated content, monetize it with some of the best technology that we could find. So um, everything from, of course, blockchain, crypto, NFT, that's the partnership with Cities ABC, to overlay technology. Source Digital is a partner in this. So when I'm interviewing someone, I could buy the shirt they're wearing or get more information on what's ever in the video. You can get all that data and all that information. To Famecast is one of our partners in terms of bringing a lot of tools into one location. So you can go live at any time behind a paywall and talk about your latest project. Subscription models are very big now. Famecast gives us a tool for subscription models. So in the music industry now, is not selling a lot of music is how you make your money. So you really have to build a one-on-one relationship with your fan base, with your core fans. And through a subscription model, sell them different things a month. So for $5.99 a month, you get exclusive song, a T-shirt, a master class. You get all these things in the package to your core fans. Well, that's $5.99 or $7.99 a month times 1,000 times 10,000 or even times 100. So we're showing artists that the music industry is extremely changing, and you have to look to monetize it a whole other ways. So one of those ways is going deep into blockchain, crypto, NFT, into this space very strong, because the creation, what you're creating, your digital music, your merchandise, your artwork, can be monetized in that world too. So it's all about showing creators around the world how to monetize what they do at the highest level. Our business model, we get a cut of everything. So we get a small cut of everything. So it's a volume play here. So with large volume, we have a great business model too.
Fantastic. And so I want to touch from your background in the music industry. You are always focused on putting the artist first, first coming from a family of artists, but understanding the industry. So at the moment, of course, all the challenge we have is that the music industry is actually suffering probably more or the same as in the 70s.
Yes.
And although the industry became more mainstream because there's much more artists than there was before, but ironically, even with all the digital tools, the artists are still struggling. And as well, the channels are difficult, especially in the last few years with COVID, has been very tricky,
right,
because the artists are not making concerts or much less concerts. And there's a much more fear for this. So how do you see the industry as we are right now, especially in particular the hip hop industry, where you are more involved?
Well, I think the key is that we're in a serious sense of transition, or where artists can take advantage of learning how to use tools that puts them directly in contact with their fan base. Honestly, record companies are no longer needed anymore. The cost of production that you can do in your house is if you really know how to do it, is you don't need necessarily an advance from a record company to create high-level products, high-level music. So to me, it's teaching the artists and giving them the tools to have direct relationships with their fan bases. So even in a COVID crisis, we transitioned to online concerts. The key is the closer you are to your fan base, the more they will support what you do. So if you can't perform live, we transition to online concerts, and pre-selling tickets to when it can go back to performing live. It's all about building that relationship directly with your fan base. And I don't feel sorry for record companies at all. If you know the history of music, record companies in the United States, at least, was started by gangsters, and the gangsters would take serious advantage of the artists. So in fact, it was a practice of buying life insurance on the artist. If the artist didn't sell records, you offed them and you collected their insurance money. So record companies were built on a very bad foundation anyway. So even up until the Michael Jacksons of the world, the equity split was not fair. I mean, 25 cents or 6 cents or 3 cents per album. Come on. that whole business model needs to die. So as we evolve forward, more equity goes into the artist, you know, and that's where it should be. So to me, it's leveling out to where it should be. This transition time's a little tough, but as artists start to figure this out, they're going to make a whole lot more money than they ever did being signed to record companies. And we're right there at it. And HipHopTV is bringing those tools to the artists. Like, listen, A, B, C, D is what you need to be doing. Let us teach you how to do it so you can monetize what you do on a much higher level. So we're here as a solution tool to help artists. And what we do transcends way past hip hop. We focus on hip hop, but this works for classical artists, jazz artists, rock artists, etc. So
no, I completely understand, and I think I think this is actually probably the biggest challenge for the music industry, actually for any industry worldwide, is that we have all these technology tools and all fantastic things, but there's very few people that are actually getting something out of it. Right. And most of people, because let's say if you are a musician or a creator, you are really not thinking about making money. You're thinking about creating your own art, your own music, your own production, whatever. So right. That's a big challenge. So I want to touch more in the way you guys want to solve this. So from your experience working with very big artists, but as well with the new artists, right? Let's look at the kind of historical for the last 2 decades that you've been working on this. What were the bigger, well, we know about the labels, so let's take the labels aside. Okay. What were the major challenges that you find for the artists and creators? Because you have quite a lot of knowledge, and as well, you even involve your studies in Berkeley on this, and Berkeley has a huge tradition in arts. I would like to touch this from a research perspective, and how do you solve this?
Well, one is that we're in a serious transition time right now. So it's you got to get the old way of thinking out your head. You know, that's the toughest thing for the big time artists, is they're used to performing live, you know, being paid to show up and perform, and that being a bulk of how they make their money, you know. So, but that's the old way of doing things, you know. That's the old way of doing things. You have an artist, let's say a Snoop Dogg, for instance, who has tens of millions of followers, you know. You know how much one masterclass Snoop Dogg could make, charging people $5 and just talking to them for an hour around the world? You know what I mean? You know, teaching about what he likes to do, the cannabis industry. He loves cannabis. So if he just did a deep dive into cannabis, one masterclass, $5, you know, he can probably get 1 million people to bite, you know? So that's $5 million made in 1 hour. You know, so but he has to understand how this stuff works, so he can say you don't have to do 5 shows around the world to earn $5 million. You could do
much more. It's exactly a good point.
Yeah, then release a limited edition NFT during your live masterclass, you know, offered to 1 million people. So this is a new business model. So the hardest thing is teaching definitely the big artists that the whole business model is changing. You have to change with it, or you should change with it. You don't have to change. You should change with it, because it's a much higher return on investment of your time to use this new technology than it is this way, you know. And believe me, the next group of artists, they are going to use the tools, and because that's what they know. So that's been the toughest thing, is convincing the mega artists that you're leaving a lot of money on the table. You know, and you put a lot of energy into things you shouldn't be putting energy into, because a lot of legendary artists are parents now, are grandparents now. So it's not like they have all the free time they had when they were younger. So time is more valuable now, and they have to learn how to maximize their social media and followings to give them much higher returns on their investment. So that's been more of the headache, is guys, get with the times. So.
No, and I think it's a very good point, because, for instance, like you said, for instance, if you look at precisely Masterclass, the business model of the Masterclass is that they offer $100,000 for the artist, and then a commission for the artist, that the more people will download and the more people listen, the more they will receive. And at the moment, MasterCard, they had $400 million of funding. Right. So I think the opportunities here are really massive in terms of inception, in terms of the possibilities, but there's a huge amount of work in terms of education.
Yes.
So I want to touch that, and you, of course, being very close with Berkeley and Stanford, because I've been, like I mentioned in the beginning of the interview, although it's not so well known, I've been actually in the music industry for a long time, and actually my biggest achievement was produce an album where David Bowie sing. And the thing that I learned was how little digital artists and musicians in general, I'm not talking digital artists, artists in general and musicians, the little they are digital.
Right.
Very few are digital, that's point one. Right. And then point two is what you mentioned about the business model is we still need platforms like HipHopTV to make it happen. Because the point is that at the moment, if an artist wants to do what you said, for Snoop Dogg wants to sell a course, or he goes and he produces everything on YouTube, and even HipHop, even Snoop Dogg will have to create a YouTube channel. Will have to make sure that he creates a regularity within YouTube, which probably, of course, in this case, it will be fast, but you still have to have a process. And it will take still some time to get numbers in YouTube because they don't come by accident, even if you are a superstar. So that's an entire work. And for instance, if you look at most of the artists have very small digital presence. So I want to touch this because this is kind of, for me, it's the platforms. And now we put the people in the platforms and the business model working together because it's a catch-22 right now. And there's still no platforms for this, let's put it that way. Because Spotify, right now, I think the numbers is 30% of the music industry in the world passes through Spotify. 30%. Okay, which is kind of crazy. And then Spotify, I'm not criticizing them because they're doing fantastic work, but it shows that one single platform in the space of 5 years is controlling all of this. But it's mostly because they create revenue streams and they create a platform that works. But the point is that a lot of all the small artists, they have no chance making money on Spotify. And even medium artists, only big numbers will make something. So how do you see this, especially from your hat of music producer and of course, music industry and entertainment expert?
Well, HipHopTV is really an educational platform, and we do this especially in our whole launch process, is to constantly go live and teach artists we're leaving too much money on the table. This is how you do it. So, and we have a personal relationship. So not like we can reach out directly and say, hey, these are the things we need to be doing to monetize what we're doing at a much higher level. Now, the term HipHopTV is very important, and that's what a lot of people get a little lost on. Puffy should have did this. I agree. Puffy should have built HipHopTV. He built Revolt TV. Now, Revolt TV, and this just comes from my academic work. A lot of leaders around the world don't want to hear the word revolt applied to young people in their countries. So let's take China, for instance. They don't want to hear the word revolt. Most African nations don't want to hear the word revolt. South America leaders don't want to hear the word revolt. So you're limiting your global growth right there with just the name of your platform. That is key. HipHopTV allows us to build like a unifying force around the world, just because the name of the term and the free tools we offer and the free education we offer to say, hey, we're leaving too much on the table. This is how the new industry works. Digital is what we have to do. We're not limited by borders anymore. So hip hop is global. Everything you do in hip hop should be thought of as global. You should have an African plan. You should have an Asian plan. You should have a South American plan, even if that's just remixes on your music. So, hey, you need to do a reggaeton remix for your South American, same song, a remix, You need to throw a little Afro beat in it for Africa. We teach the artists everything must be global and you have to track the data. See, HipHopTV is really a data central for hip hop culture. You really have to track the data. Where is your stuff hitting? You spend a lot of time in LA, but for some reason, your stuff is hidden in Sydney, Australia. That's where your traction is coming from. We need to get you a passport, get you over there with a local DJ and a promoter in Australia, and you need to go hard in Australia. So a central data source so we can help artists maximize kind of what they're doing, which grows the culture also at the same time. So that's what we're most excited about, is really taking technology, applying it to the culture. But this could be applied, as you know, to anything. But we focus strongly on hip hop culture, and we connect in sports because with basketball, at least, hip hop and basketball is tied at the hip. They're almost one and the same. So when you see NBA, you hear hip hop music, and it's been that way really since Allen Iverson of the Philadelphia 76ers was a hip hop artist and a basketball star, MVP of the league, but he also rapped. And he made a marriage between the two that exists to today. So sports and hip hop culture is a huge global lane to work in, and that's kind of what we focus on.
No, and that really is amazing what you guys are trying to do. So one thing I want to highlight this precisely about the sports and the culture and the data. So in March this year, you actually did a partnership between Corsina and HipHop to create a partnership with Adsmobile. So I will just quote from the PR because I think it's relevant for our audience, but it's interesting precisely to go from the theory to the practice. So Adsmobile is a digital advertising company with direct relationship to 1,200 Latin America, Spanish and US Hispanic publishers that has been announcing with HipHopTV, a 24 streaming network, the idea of a platform and the content production partnership called the Adsmobile Studio. That is a full-service content studio combining ideation and storytelling with the largest digital advertisement network targeting US Hispanishes. And as well, it allows Adsmobile to bring A-list talent and data together to innovate and guarantee measurable impact for advertisers. So can you tell us about this? Because this is really big. And this is, I think, these models that we need in the music industry and especially in the hip-hop industry as well.
So our partnership with Adsmobile is very important. Adsmobile is a marketing company that reaches a lot of people. They specialize in digital and mobile marketing for some of the largest companies in the world. Our partnership with them creates a studio that we create content that is very branded, and we work with brands. Examples of that is My City, My Music, with a Latin focus on it. So focusing on reggaeton and Latin trap, telling the stories of the up and coming reggaeton and Latin trap artists and the cities that they grew in and how their neighborhoods and cities affected who they are as artists and performers. You know, we have another one, Dance Kings, we're developing with them, which tells the same thing about all these dancers around the world and the cities that they come from and the neighborhoods they come from. And partner. So everything we do at Adsmobile has a Latin focus to it. So it's focused on South America, Mexico, and the rest of South America, because that's really their distribution focus. We're developing similar deals with a company we work with out of Japan that handles Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, and Japan, and forging some similar relationships with a company in China that focuses just on China, and even one in Africa. So we look to partner with distribution, content development companies that know their region well, and we bring a lot of hip hop to the table. So it's powerful. No, very powerful. So that's how we're able to grow, you know, a little faster than maybe another platform is. We worked for years on developing these series of partnerships around the world.
It's really impressive. And I think this part that you just mentioned, the relationship between partnerships and media and data, with the education component is I think, the biggest challenge that we are facing right now when it comes to creating new revenue streams for artists. For instance, there was a study talking just in the US alone, there's 30 million creators, from musician to artists and all this stuff. And most of these people are living in poverty rates. So there's a lot of need for this. So I want to touch now in terms of picking on the data and going to NFTs, as you know, is one of my passions. So how are you going to work from a platform with the artists that you're presenting and organizations? Because you are very special, because you are like an institution within the hip hop world, because you have the relationship with the artists, but you have as well with museums, you have with a lot of different organizations. So I would like to touch how are you aiming to use, of course, the innovation coming out of you? And for instance, you mentioned the Mavericks, the Dallas Mavericks is interesting because Mark Cuban invested hundreds of millions of dollars in NFT platforms. A lot of them in terms of NFT collectives. And there's a lot of things right now, and special collectives in sports and NBA precisely. But I would like to hear from your side how you want to, of course, we're going to work with Cities ABC, but from your side with the artists, because I think that's the part that, especially people listening to us, of course, there's industry players, but there's a lot of creators and industry people that want to learn, and they want to demystify what is the NFTs, what is the hype, and take the hype out, and let's look at the most interesting things.
So it's you said it over and over again. It's education, education, education. With hip hop and sports, just the NFT market alone is very, very valuable, and will be very valuable moving forward. Just that alone. But the creators or the athletes and the entertainers don't know a whole lot about how NFTs or cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, the whole thing works, blockchain, period. So our initial push is a lot of education, saying this is how it works, this is how you benefit from it, this is how your future generations benefit from it. It's not only you, your future generations can benefit from this, and this is how it all works. Has to be a big key. Because I think I've seen a lot of the other platforms, they just come and, creating these NFT and all this stuff and really not bringing the educational piece to it. They're just doing it, maybe slide the artist a check or something like that, but they're not really doing it and educating the artists in what is the business model of this digital currency? What is the business model of blockchain technology? What is the business model of NFTs and things and all the great things you're doing and all the great things you will be creating? How does NFTs play into your business model? So, and it goes a little deeper than that. A lot of the artists need help developing their business model now, because the business model has changed so much that even the younger new artists don't completely understand it. So that is really the value of what we're bringing with HipHopTV, is in our lane of hip hop and sports. We want to be we want to make sure we bring as much education to the table and teach people as much as possible, because we do things transparently. We're very up and up. We're not trying to take advantage of nobody. We're here to help the culture. So business-wise, I think they will see that and say, you know what, HipHopTV did kind of gave me a lot of game early on. I'm going with it. I'm going with HipHopTV. So we feel that's the long game. The long game is being integrity and the trust in this lane. So artists eventually say, you know what, these guys, really did it right, and this is who I'm messing with.
No, I'm completely, and I think I love the vision, and I think it's definitely the most important thing, but the very difficult thing, because I think when I speak with almost anyone, I think what I find is really there's a massive disconnection between the learning of the tools, using the tools. And I'm not even talking about NFTs, for instance. If you do, I'm sure if you go to your network or catalog of artists and see their, for instance, let's look at their Spotify profiles. Let's look at Instagram profiles or YouTube channels. And I'm sure that 90%, not to say 99%, will have almost 0 followers and very low, really digital presence. And this is a paradox, because you have fantastic artists that have terrible digital presence. And if you don't make the bridge between the digital presence and the music or the creativity part of the artist, of course, they will have much more difficulties to succeed. So I think this kind of border between these things is actually where the NFTs can actually create a lot of solutions. And I like what you said about making sure, especially that the NFTs are tools, but as well that has education in the platform, and which is precisely what we're trying to do, even with our interviews, to teach and to talk with the industry leaders, because you have 25 years of experience within the industry, but as well really going through the ups and downs, because of course it's great when you work with Madonna or with one of the biggest celebrities and something really works fantastic, but then is all the bad moments that goes, and and all the persistence, because this is a long game. So I
Right.
want to talk about the failures and how do you deal with this, especially as an artist and as a musician, and how you deal as well with this kind of tools to empower this. Because I think it's an important thing, and people are afraid to talk about failure. I know that in the US, failure is much more tolerated than in Europe, for instance, or Asia.
Right.
For instance, in Asia, if you fail, you get in trouble. Actually,
Right.
in Japan, you actually commit suicide. So there's a lot of issues on these areas that I would like to touch, and especially a lot of artists that are struggling with a lot of challenges on this.
So everything I work on is developing solutions to lessen the failure rate. You know, I think there's tools now that exist that could really help increase the success rate. Like, I'm gonna give you an example. So we have a lot of domestic artists in the United States, and let's talk about. I would narrow it down to hip hop, right? That have no understanding of a global audience. They just don't. They just think they have to be popular in their neighborhood. They don't understand that the world is a very big place, right? So one solution I'm working with those artists is, let's find an artist doing something in another country. You know, let's go with Brazil, right? Let's go with an artist in Brazil, right? It has traction in Brazil. No traction in the United States, but traction in Brazil, you know. Reach out to the artist. Let's do a remix on the song. They're gonna respond to you because you're from the United States. So you could be nobody in the United States, but you're somebody to the guy in Brazil, right? So let's reach out to that guy. And then let's use the tools to geo-target Brazil with this guy, with the focus of building your social media numbers, you know? So once you start building that traction, you know what I mean? The key is, you may not be popular in LA, but you match yourself with this global artist in another country and release some music, and then geo-target your little mini ad campaigns on that area of the world that is much cheaper to do, you know, you will see your numbers grow, you know? And then we work our way back home. We work our way back to the United States because people start seeing your numbers and stuff. So I think HipHopTV has a responsibility to help artists and content creators start to develop solutions that decrease the failure rate in the first place, you know, because right now a lot of them just bumping their heads on the wall. They're just not understanding how the thing works. But, you know, we came up with a saying a couple weeks ago: the game to be sold, not told. Is that Clubhouse gives a lot of, you know, they talk, but we want to, our panels that we go live with, we're gonna focus on solutions. You know, this is how you do it, and bring people to the table that being an insider, right? You don't have to go to Snoop Dogg. You get an artist he's close with that he listens to that's not as big as him, and you have that person on the panel. Well, guess what? Snoop Dogg's gonna watch it too. You know what I mean? That's his buddy. You know what I mean? He knows his buddy's very smart. You know, we have an artist we work with, Mr. Fab. Mr. Fab is an Oakland artist, not known really outside of the Bay Area a whole lot, but he's very close to Snoop. He's very close to E40. He's very close to G-Eazy. He's very close to Too Short. A lot of artists in Detroit and other cities really pay attention to him, right? You got to have Mr. Fab on because he has a lot of influence of an artist. Even though most people don't know who he is, he has a lot of influence on quite a few major artists, and he could get through, you know, get through that barrier. And so we know how to use the system to maximize the exposure. We want to be known for giving artists the tools to build success, and start really working on the success models that even failure is much less of a failure. So there is no failure. You know, if you use these models with just 100 artists, and that's $5.99 times 100 artists, you know, that's not bad. And you build from there, you know. So that is a failure. Now, other artists may have 1 million people paying $5.99, you know, but you started with your 100. Now it's time to build this up, your core fans. So I see it as an opportunity. I see it as a huge opportunity to say, you know what, with the right tools, we don't have to fail.
No, I love that, and I think it's all about the way you look at these things. I really appreciate this. So I want to touch, and we are passing almost close to 1 hour and a half, so I will be respectful of your time. So let's just one question about let's go bit right now about the pop culture. So we talk about music, we talk about the NFTs, and I think for people listening to us, definitely keep track on both Shawn radar and mine, because we're going to be talking a lot about this going forward. But I think I want to touch right now on the culture side. So like you said, the hip hop is global famous, and it touches a lot of different things, from music to movement to fashion to a lot of different things. I would like to hear from your side, how do you see this culture, and now you're going to bridge all these different things, because you mentioned, for instance, education, but that's as well all the marketplace, because you can sell fashion, you can sell design, you can sell even museums that are right now coming into these things, and the museums want to work with the artists, with the musicians. So that's in the end of the day, there's so much different areas, but it's like a fragmented ecosystem. And if you put it in the same boat, I think you can actually go to a good port. So I would like to hear about the culture and how you see these different areas, especially the bridge between music, fashion, and a lot of things of the hip hop culture.
Well, one thing about hip hop culture is I'm old enough to have been around before hip hop was a world famous situation, you know, a world famous thing. So hip hop, they're generations younger than me. That's all they know. They've grown up with hip hop their whole life, you know. So hip hop is blended into cultures around the world, and it really equates to urban youth culture around the world. Kind of that is synonymous. It means the same thing as hip hop culture. You know, it's really urban youth culture around the world, which is a very valuable segment of culture, because if you study where trends come from, the coolness of the world comes from urban youth culture. Whether that's your hat worn backwards, whether that's the kids with gold teeth, whether that's a Izod shirt or a polo shirt, or whether that's, you know, tennis shoes, high top or low top, that culture, those trends begin in youth urban culture, and they flood the world, and somebody makes billions of dollars from decisions made by young people in urban communities that they decide this is what's cool. So the culture has a lot of power to it. We have never ever monetized that culture or included those young people that create the trends into the business model. So we're talking about taking the culture to that and including those young people into the business model of the cool trends that they create. You know, that's really one of the powers of what we're doing at HipHopTV. And that's what data is so important. So we know where these things come from. We know where these trends come from. In Oakland, at one point, it was a trend to wear large 5X white t-shirts, blue jeans, Nike shoes, and all the guys grew dreadlocks. So we never knew, why are all these kids wearing the same thing and wearing their hair the same way? And it came out in a panel discussion is that when the police are looking for you, they're looking for the same person. They're looking for a guy with a 5X t-shirt, jeans, Nike shoes, and dreadlocks. But that's the whole neighborhood. The kids came up with that. They would dress alike to make it tougher for the police to track them down, you know? But those 5X t-shirts sold around the world. That trend went around the world, and some companies made a lot of money selling 5X white t-shirts. See how it works?
No, it's completely, and I love the way you put it, because it's really about the misappropriation of cultural trends and the different things that makes the difference here. Well, it's been a fabulous, and I have a lot of more questions, but so one last question to let you brief, and I'm sure you're going to have a follow-up session or two. So I want to just, so what are talking precisely about trends, and someone like you that has been within the trends and all the different ups and downs, and of course all the continuous fantastic things coming. How do you see the present and future of hip hop? I'm talking about the music and about the mainstream culture right now.
I think it's an incredible opportunity. Um, NFTs alone creates an incredible opportunity for hip hop and sports culture. Creating, I mean, in that digital space alone like I say, is an incredible opportunity. But as what we're doing with Hip Hop TV is saying, listen, everything is global, and for some reason we didn't ask for it. The world has voted, young hip hop artists the coolest people in the world. So people think that you're cool. How do we monetize that cool? You know what I mean? And we're the coolest people in the world. How do we monetize that cool? And that's where we're at. So there's huge opportunity in the monetizing what the world has deemed as cool people. And that's what we want to show artists how to do around the world. Around the world, these young artists that live in poverty, creating incredible content and music, deserve a lot more return on investment, and that's what we want to bring them and show them, teach them. This is how you do it.
So last one, and so really very specific about Hip Hop TV. So you mentioned that you guys are going to have an app coming. We talk about the partnership with Hip Hop TV,
Right.
and the Cosina and the Ads Mobile. And the other things that you want to share with your audience and their, let's say, music around the world, the artists and hip hop lovers, how can they get in and get in the board of your special ship?
Well, shoot, off the top, we're excited, and we haven't announced it yet, our partnership with Cities ABC. About our goal is to create the largest hip hop marketplace for NFTs in the world, in partnership with Cities ABC. We feel we can do that. We feel we have the relationships. We feel with some of the content we're producing around the world that focuses on cities and, our City is Mine productions, or My City, My Music productions. We believe we can do that. We believe with our transparency and our fairness that we're going to offer the fairest deals for everybody. So we're going to be the best place to do business with, just on a business level. But that is a huge opportunity we're looking forward to, along with some of our other global partners, to really take the hip hop culture and really monetize at the highest level and provide a much higher return on investment for all hip hop focused creators.
Well, I'm looking forward for that and going on this ride together. I'm really impressive about all of these different things. We're going to put all these notes. I think we're going to do a couple of sessions about precisely the education going forward, because I'm particularly interested to work on that. So one last question, I think, is more personal, but tell us a bit your relationship with Berklee. So someone like you that was making parties in the high school with 2,000 people that end up actually in Berkeley University. That's quite an achievement. And you're working as well with Stanford, so two of the top universities in the planet. So tell us about that, because I think that's a beautiful story, but as well that highlights the capacities that come. And I know that, for instance, there's a lot of artists that are these things, but sometimes it's a bit hidden. But I think it's important that we put it public, because the only way for artists listening to us to make money in getting these models is learning, like you said,
right.
But as well being smart. The smart implies being part of the waves in the right way.
Well, I am totally connected to Berkeley. Growing up, my best friend's dad was a scientist at UC Berkeley. So I would actually ride my little bicycle and play on the Berkeley campus as a child, while my friend dad was at work, because on his lunchtime, he would take us to the gym to play basketball on his lunch period. But he was a scientist. So I grew up on the UC Berkeley campus as a child, probably not even realizing what UC Berkeley was, just riding my bicycle and climbing trees and playing in the gym. So, but afterwards, and my high school was down the street from UC Berkeley. St. Mary's High School in Berkeley is close to UC Berkeley. So Berkeley has kind of been a part of my life. My wife and I went to UC Berkeley. My wife is the Associate Dean of Admissions at UC Berkeley. So I'm just totally connected to Berkeley. And one of my closest friends just happened to be a dean at Stanford. So I work very close with him in science. And we produce these technology and sports camps, so we teach kids about technology and sports. So I work very close with Stanford and UC Berkeley on that. So I am completely Go Bears, completely. Jason Kidd, of course, is one of my closest friends, and he's one of the most famous athletes to ever play at UC Berkeley. So I'm just Berkeley to the core, I guess.
Wow, that's very inspiring and really fantastic. So I want to touch now. Sorry, last one. If you have 1 minute or two more.
I have.
Can you tell us about the sports and data, because that's quite interesting. We didn't touch much that, but as well how you relate the HipHopTV with the sports part, but as well the work you've been doing in data sports, because it's a massive industry and it's going to become bigger. And of course, when it comes to NFTs, right now the biggest part of NFTs are actually sports NFTs. So yes. A bit of that, because of course you have both the academic and the experience, both experience working with sports people, but as well on hip hop and with academic.
Well, we being here in the Bay Area, we sit in the heart of, we're between San Francisco and Silicon Valley. So we're in a tech hub of the world where we're based at. So we started producing sports camps that provide, so half the day is technology, the other half is sports. And we start with basketball. So we invite companies to come out and present to young people the opportunities that exist in, in technology. Because here in the Bay Area, there's 200,000 job openings in technology that sit unfilled, that they mainly bring people around the world to fill. Even though our young people sit here right around the corner, and if we train them, our whole thought process, if we get them interested in it, they can look to go into industries that are right around the corner from them, literally drivable distance, well-paying jobs. These are well-paying jobs too. So our camps are kind of designed to bring people into that, kind of mix the sports with the technology. And in that, some of our sessions even focus on NFTs, and the sports guys talk about, kind of what's going on. So we're bringing maybe a minting company is what we plan to be to in the future, and actually have an athlete there and talk about how NFTs work, so the young people can get exposure to it and say, oh, okay, that's how it works. So our technology, we mix the technology with the sports, really trying to focus on giving young people options that very few people make it as professional athletes. We tell her, the 1% of the 1%, but this computer scientist over here, this electrical engineer over here, he just went to school, so you just focus, you could do that a lot easier. You could do this other stuff, jump through the gym and shoot like Steph Curry. That doesn't come too often in this world, but these guys and these ladies, everybody could do it. So that's kind of our focus.
Now that's inspiring and wonderful, Shawn. It's really impressive, and I think this shows as well the versatility of your work, and I believe really in HipHopTV to be a driver of the culture of hip hop and create a fantastic, positive, and empowered movement.
Yes.
So looking forward to continue working. I think this will be the first of a lot of interviews they're going to be doing. And I hope the next ones will be with different people from the industry, talking about the problems and doing lives, and as well creating a lot of educational, because I think that's the idea that I want to pass with my YouTube channel. And as well, I know that is what you want to do as well with HipHopTV. So thank you so much, Shawn. We're going to put all the links for the website, for the app, and for all the different fantastic things you guys are doing. And for everyone listen, please study Shawn, study the HipHopTV, and get involved. And please take your seat, not take your seat, get action as well, because that's the most important thing here.
Dinis, thank you. You and your team, really appreciate it. Look forward to
my pleasure, and very honored to be here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.